July 23rd, we are here at the Cooch County Board of Commissioners meeting. And can everybody stand, please, for the national anthem?
Or for the national anthem. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks everybody for coming. Can we get a, first of all, is there any additions or deletions for the agenda? Okay, there's no deletions or additions for the county business. Can we get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner McIntyre. Commissioner Hell. Any questions? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. That's 4 to yes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes for the July 9th meeting?
I'll move.
Thank you, Commissioner Erickson.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Hell. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I vote yes, that's 4 to 0. We'll move to financial business. We're approving the courthouse claims, highway claims, and public health and human service claims. In our package, it's items A, B, and C. Do we have to do them as one? Can we do them as one?
We usually do, yeah.
Okay. Can I get a motion on items A, B, and C for highway, courthouse, and public health claims?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Hell.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner McIntyre. Any discussion?
I had a question about that, and I think it was on, not here, I guess. I think it was Nathan Land and Forestry or something. There was a wiring, something on maintenance for, it seemed like an awful lot of money for a wire harness. $7,500 for a wire harness. I was just wondering if that was a typo, or if we had something major.
That was on highway claims?
I think so. If I remember right. No, Land and Forestry.
Courthouse claims.
I didn't have time to find it again this morning here, so.
Wiring harness taillights
Yeah,
for number 106.
you found it?
What page are you on?
Yeah, what page are you on?
For the amount of $7,451.29.
What page are you on?
19.
That'd be page, yeah, right at page 19.
Seems like an awful lot for a wiring harness. Taillight wire. It must be something.
That was auto group. Can we check into that? Is Nathan online with us?
I don't see him online, but we can certainly follow up on that. Maybe that was the description, but maybe there was more work done.
You know, maybe it's a typo, or maybe it's legitimate. Maybe there was
More work that needed to be done, than they just put it just as a wiring harness. So we can definitely look into that to find out if that was a typo error or if it was a more work involved. Repair and maintenance on vehicles, what it comes back as a thing. So we can get Nathan to take and look into that. We'll note that as courthouse claims, item 147.
Is that the pickup, heavy duty truck? Land and forestry would be pickup, that is.
Yeah.
That would be a pickup, yeah.
That's the only question I had, Mr. Chair.
Okay. We will look into that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's 4 yeses. Motion carries. We move to payroll. Hi, Janelle.
How are you?
Good, how about you?
Good, thanks. So, I am here today to get board approval to enroll our current and any future part-time E911 dispatch correction officers into the para correctional plan, as we discussed at committee of the whole on July 9th. And so this would increase the county contribution from what is currently 7.5% to 8.75%.
Okay, so that would just be the people coming forward from here on out,
And our current.
and at our current right now.
Yep, yep.
It was a correction back to the first of the year.
That's gonna be part of the second phase. So, we're just looking to get them enrolled, moving forward, and so part of that process, will be to retro back. And I'm still working with Para on what those amounts are like, so I will be coming back to get that approval to retro those amounts.
Okay.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Thank you, Commissioner Erickson. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
All right, item 5 is to approve a fireworks permit. This looks like it'll be for the Cooch County District Fair down in North Home. Fireworks display. Looks like they've went through all the permitting, got all their insurance papers, drawn out the area where they're gonna be at, certificate of insurance, and I believe they did pay their $50 fee too.
My understanding is everything's ready to go, sheriff has signed off, this needs board approval.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Hale and Commissioner Erickson. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You're on.
Motion carries. P6, certify the U.S. funding of the Northland Counseling Facility to the state as required of the grant agreement.
I can speak to this, so
Okay.
when we worked with Northland Counseling we basically had to lease their building and land, and then we could go out and bond, do a state bond to help them with the renovation for their current facility. And part of that grant agreement with the state to receive that bonding is we have to do 2 things. We have to certify that it is being used for what it was intended to be used for, as outlined in the grant, which I believe it is. And second, they have to provide a budget to us annually to show that they have the funds necessary to operate the facility and the programming. And so we have to certify that to the state. So they provided that form that's in here. So in the packet is Northland's budget that shows that revenues exceed expenses. And then the last page is the certification form. So this, I don't know if it's, I gotta look into a little bit if it's, it hasn't been done historically, but I think they just are closing out their project, so now we have to start reporting on this annually
Okay.
for a number of years, so.
To make sure the budget matches are always
So they have the funds. I mean, I think we're on the hook for making sure that it's being used as it's intended, and that they have the funds to continue to operate it as intended. The state does do site visits once in a while to also do their checks as well, but this is the formality of the grant, our responsibility as the grantee.
Okay.
The grant was for $5 million.
The grant was for $5 million.
So, wishes of the board. To approve.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner McIntyre. Any more discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We'll move on to the Public Health and Human Service business.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I asked Nathan to come, because he wanted to speak to Dale's question.
Oh,
Okay.
Dale had a question on one of the expense items for that in forestry, the wiring harness fix
Oh,
for 7,500 or so.
yeah, so we had one of our trucks. We assumed it happened last winter where they were on a job or on a landing and the stick kicked up and hit the wiring harness underneath, and we started to have electrical problems with that truck this spring. And took it in and they put it up on a hoist, and you could see where a stick or something had hit the wiring harness, so we had to replace the whole wiring harness in the pickup. But we did turn it into the insurance, and they covered everything except for the deductible, so we've already been paid for that, so,
So that's a 7,500 for a complete wiring harness?
yeah,
Wow. That was
And
that was installed?
that was installed.
all right, I can see that.
Well, I think that bill, that invoice, that particular invoice, we had a tail light too on there that for a couple $100, it was just over $7,000 for the wiring harness.
So that was an expenditure going out, but we did get it back on our insurance minus our deductible?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we got paid out on that right away just a couple weeks ago, so.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
We watch you. We watch you.
I'll tell you someday who's landing it with
Uh-oh.
Cut County would.
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning. So we have a warrant void.
Yep. Yep, this was one off of one of our rep paying clients. It was a cancellation of a membership they wanted, so.
Okay.
That's why we had to void that one.
In the sum of $308.88.
Yep.
Need a motion for that one all by itself? I'll
Yep.
make the motion.
Alrighty.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Thank you, Commissioner McIntyre. Any more discussion on the warrant void? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. That one passes. Next up is the renewal of the Lutheran Social Service Housing Support Agreement.
Yep, these are for some of our adult foster care homes
Okay.
and independent living homes. Every year we have to do these housing support agreements. At the last board meeting, I came with several. We hadn't received the ones from LSS or the next one on the line item yet, so those came in after that meeting, so we did on this one. So it's just renewal. They have to do it every year for housing support from the state.
Can we do all these ones together? The social service, the REM and SLS? Or do we have to do each one of these individually?
Let's do them individually.
Okay. So request for renewal of the Lutheran Social Service Housing Support Agreement, which is in our package underneath 2.
Yep, and that's for, they have several homes in the county, and so this is one agreement. Each one has its own agreement, but we need just one approval for all the homes.
For all the homes on this one?
Yep.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Thank you, Commissioner Erickson. Any more discussion on the
Quite a few homes, huh?
agreement? Yeah, there's a whole pile of them in this one.
Yeah, there's like 5 just
Yep.
in town.
Yep,
right?
yeah, there's a couple in North Home and
Couple in International Falls. Yep. All right, any more discussion on that? If not, I'll call the question.
Aye.
Alright.
Aye. Motion passes. Second one is request to approve the renewal of the REM SLS Housing Support Agreement. That's in your package in E3.
Yep, that's REM North Star, semi-independent living skills homes. Same concept, similar situation as the Lutheran Social Services, but it's REM North Star instead of Lutheran Social Services, and they have several homes in the area as well.
3 houses I see in this one here. Yep. So, can I get a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner McIntyre.
One second.
Thank you, Commissioner Hell. Any more discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question.
Alright.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Next up is a request approval of the renewal of the REM SILS Purchase Service Agreement.
Yep, that is with REM North Star as well. It's our purchase of service agreement for semi-independent living skills for eligible clients of ours. We have to have that in place so they can get reimbursement from the state for semi-independent living skills for our developmentally delayed population.
Okay,
I'll make the motion.
thank you, Commissioner Hill.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Erickson. Any more discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question.
Alright.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Next one up is to request an approval and renewal of the AEOA stay purchase and service agreement.
Yep, this is with AEOA. It's our stay funds that we get from the state. It is for independent living skills for youth. They run the Free at Last program, if you guys are familiar with that. That's what this purchase service agreement is, for them to run that Free at Last program. It teaches independent living skills to eligible youth.
Okay,
I'll make the motion.
thank you, Commissioner Hill. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Erickson. Any more discussion on this? If not, call the question.
Alright.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4-0.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're way ahead of schedule.
We are way ahead of schedule, so our agenda timing is off, so we can move forward. I guess if the cemetery folks show up, we can take it either in committee of the whole or at the end of the meeting.
Okay.
Or you can certainly reopen the meeting if you wanna consider any action, but
We can bring up the committee of the whole.
I know that, I talked to Ricky about it, but you've all read what happened in the cemetery with the stones being tipped over. The numbers I put in the RBA have been refined. I think it said 60 or 65, but they confirmed maybe 30 to 35 stones were vandalized a couple weekends ago, and they are working through how they don't have, the cemetery doesn't have the funds to pay for it. Their insurance doesn't cover it. They don't cover vandalism. The insurance told them, as I understand it, that because the plots are owned by individuals, that individuals are responsible for their plots. And so they're trying to work through how they can get funds or resources to help reset those headstones. So they just asked if they could come speak to the county board today, and they maybe have new information. I last spoke to them last Friday. I think they were still working on reaching out to find people that were associated with each of the plots that were affected, so that's what I know today. So a few of their board members were gonna come, the cemetery board members were gonna come and just speak to you guys about
Looking for a loan, or what are they looking for?
Yes, Thor.
No. As far as the itinerary goes, I just received a text message from Sean that he'll be back about 10:30 as a kid emergency. So don't worry about the airport side, we can be pushed back as far as it helps with it. It helps the itinerary for me. Thank you.
So what are they asking? They didn't give me a full amount, but
No, are they asking for a loan, or what?
I think they're considering, maybe a contribution.
Contribution, anything they could get.
So I don't want to speak for them because I don't know exactly what the ask is, but to set a new headstone, it's about $200 a headstone. So they were estimating based off of that. And,
I think if they had to do 30 at one time, or whatever, the cost would go down quite a bit. They got the tractor out there
Picking them up.
picking them up.
Did they not find, have any idea who's responsible?
Not
I
as
spoke
of
to the
yet.
sheriff middle of last week, and they
That would be the spot.
didn't have any new leads at this time.
So we could actually bring that back around and bring that to the committee of the whole if they show up.
I think we can, yes.
Okay, we'll bring that back down to the committee of the whole at that time. So at this time, is there
Do
any?
you want to make a motion just to readdress it when they come?
Yes, I'll make a motion that we address this at committee of the whole when they come back at that
Make a
time.
motion.
Thank you, Commissioner McIntyre.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Any more discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. All right, at this time, do we have anybody for public comment online or in person? Hearing none. Can we make a motion?
That was you.
There in the top right corner. Sorry.
Oh,
Is there somebody there?
I don't know.
Somebody online there with their hand up?
No.
Oh, there it went down. Alrighty, hearing none. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Make the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Got it a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Erickson. Any more discussion? Hearing none. Call the sign.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We're gonna move things around here a little bit. Joan is gone. She's the only one in the office for our second quarter investment reviews, so we are gonna table that for a later discussion. And Adam's gonna talk to us about our second quarter budget review.
All right, so in your packets, you should have the report. You guys got it in there?
I don't think I do.
It'd be like 9 pages.
It's at the very end.
Yeah, I know. Let's see,
Oh, here.
yeah.
Here, look at this one.
I got an extra copy of it,
I don't think I got that. This is,
I think. Crystal, I'm
some
sorry.
of that
I
stuff
didn't
from
reach
committee
it.
meetings I was at. so.
Okay, here it is, though.
Thank you so much, I appreciate it.
Yep. Here's the report here. So if you remember, we went through first quarter budget review in March, and so we're halfway through the year, so I'm going to provide a budget review. Please stop me if you have any questions or comments. Certainly, if you want me to do any follow-up or take any action, we certainly can do that as well. But this is just to give you a status of county finances and where we're at. So starting at the top there, County Board, first department. We're operating a little bit over budget at 56%. So in my review, we are over in wage, and we're over in insurance in all our departments just because we budgeted contingency funds, and we'll apply those at the end of the year because we had a increase that we didn't know at the time of the budget related to health insurance. So that's part of it. And then our mileage was under budgeted as well for board. So I'll take some ownership for that, but I know I came in halfway through budget too, so I can't remember what Betsy did and what I did. But I think looking at historical, we were a year with not a full board too, so maybe the projections weren't budgeted completely correct. So a little over with county board. Court, that is the department for our court-appointed attorneys. We did see high expenses at the end of last year, but this year they've been pretty low. As you can see, we're only at 14% of our budget. And that department really just depends on how many cases we have that need them, right? So we're doing pretty good there. Law library, they've pretty much spent everything that they have to date already. Talking to Jeff, it sounds like a lot of those are, annual subscriptions that are paid in the beginning part of the year, so we're not going to see double that moving forward. Administration is at 32% of budget, so we're well below that. I know in looking at each line item, our med insurance, health insurance was under budgeted there annually, and so we'll have some adjustment with that, but I think again with some of the turnover in admin, some things have changed and we have different people and different types of insurance. The reason we're so low there too is the contingency funds are built in there, so those have not been apportioned out yet, so that's why you're seeing it well under 50%. Auditor Treasurer's Office is at 53%, so a little over 50% for half the year, but they did have their delinquent tax publication, which is an annual separate newspaper almost now. It's about $15,000 to publish the delinquent tax pieces. Assessor's office is right within budget there at 48%. Our audit service, we actually have auditors coming on site here the first part of August for our 2023 audit, so they'll be working with different offices and stuff, so we just haven't been billed for a lot of their expense for the year. Information systems is at 44%. They still have some projects to do in their departments, so they're under the 50%. And then you look into our telephone, postage, photocopy, and television. They're kind of all right there at right below 50%, so looking okay there. Our safety budget, we do an annual in-service with staff on aware and bloodborne pathogen training and things like that. So we had that here in May, so that's pretty much the budget for the year. Payroll's right below 50%, so looking good. Elections, 37%. As you know, we got a couple big elections coming up, so expect that to be spent in the second half. The attorney's office is at 44.75. Recorder at 44. Surveyor at 45. Complex or maintenance is at just under 45%. Sinking building fund, we had budgeted to use some of those funds that we have on reserves to help with one of the projects in the complex, but that Dean says that's not going to happen this year, so that'll stay in the fund and he'll probably use it for next year's budgeting. I think they were going to do some sort of HVAC project that isn't going to get done in 2024. So, Forest Land Annex, this is the maintenance costs related to that facility. As you can see, 6%, that's, we had budgeted 300,000 for the roof this year, but that's not, a portion of it's gonna get spent just on design and bid prep, but the bulk of construction will be rebudgeted next year. VSO, right under 50%, looking good. Carpool is where our fleet expenses come from. I know we did have one, we purchased that van. I think that expense didn't come in until July, so we'll see that on next quarters. Sheriff's Office, 53%, so they're a little over budget. I'm a little concerned with their overtime expenses related to them. I've talked to the sheriff about it. We know we had a new overtime rule come into effect about this time last year, so they did their best to budget for what that might be. I think they budgeted $175,000 in overtime, and they're at $109 halfway through the year, so they're looking at, what is that, $45,000 if they double that the next year. So I know they're looking at ways that they can maybe curb some of that, but it's an expense we didn't historically have, so maybe more discussion. He's on vacation this week, so otherwise I think he'd probably speak to it better than I can. Medical examiner, under 50%. Substance abuse court is our contribution to our drug treatment court. And so, as you remember, we've paid out first half and second half throughout the year. That's why it's 100%. ARC is right at 50%. Emergency management is under 50%. Library, we've paid out all of our appropriations to them. Bacchus, we've paid out about half of our appropriations there. Historical Society and the county fairs we've paid out. County Extension bills us quarterly, so we're at right about 50% there. Soil and water we've paid out for the year. Airport operations is right at 48.6% for the year. Economic development loans and small city grants is only at 6.16%. I believe we haven't apportioned out the power line funds that we get through taxes. I don't think those have been received yet. I think that's the bulk of that. I have Margaret looking into an insurance. That's our MCIT stuff. I'm not sure if we've paid it in full for the year and we're just a little bit over budget, or if that insurance needs to be portioned out to other departments. So I have a question mark on that one. Historically, it's not been over 150,000 annually, so I gotta look into that further. Retired medical for elected officials is at 60%. Again, we'll portion some money out of the contingency funds for that. Humane Society's been paid out. And then, so you can see for the general fund, we're at about 47% of our expenses for the year. Then I'm going to get into revenues for our general fund. I'm not going to go through each line on this one unless you have questions. But our first half of property taxes, we've collected about 57.8%. We usually collect a little more in the beginning. Some people pay in full for the year. And then we collect throughout the year as well. So, and then revenues by department is on the bottom half of that page. It's hard to look at percentages. Some of the revenues come in at different times of the year, so the 50% mark doesn't always apply to our 6-month rule here. So, but on page 3 there, we're at about 32.9% of our revenues for the year. And our fund balance is about $621,000 higher than it was a year ago in June. So, any questions on Fund 1? Any follow-up for me on that area?
On the first page, the
Yep.
information systems, what is that?
That's Justin O'Dare, that's our technology
Okay.
and
Yep.
all of our software and computers and all that stuff.
Okay.
All right, next is Road and Bridge, or Highway Department. And their department's kind of the one that is the most truly doesn't follow the 50%. Their projects are really dependent on when they occur and when they expend out. So they're only at 12.8% of expenditures for the year and about 26% of revenues for the year. And Trent, you know, if you want to expound on anything related to highway finance?
Yeah, as far as projects go, we just haven't had anything until after second quarter. I did get a little over $2 million in about a week and a half ago. Actually, over $3 million. We got our second payment, which is 40% for state aid maintenance. That was 1.1 million, and then various projects I put in for reimbursement was about 2 million. But yeah, all of our projects are kind of started, with the exception of the roundabout. All our projects are starting in August, so it can be a busy month for us.
Roundabout's moving right along.
Which is surprising with the weather we've got. We found some unsuitable material out there, so we have got a couple change orders come through for over excavation. But yeah, things seem to be going good.
Okay.
Highway fund balance is down about $2.5 million from a year ago. If you remember last year, they did a pretty significant reserve spend, and I know we levied more for them this year to help offset some of those routine expenses. So, Public Health and Human Services, their expenditures are at about 41.4% for the year, so below 50%, and their revenue is about 36.4%. And they have a lot of different grants that don't get paid out till expenses are expended, so there's a turnaround time there. So their fund balance is about $208,000 higher than it was a year ago. Environmental Services, their expenses are about 37.25%. They had some bigger projects with scales and things that haven't been expended yet, so that's part of why they're below the 50%. And their revenues are about 39% for the year. And their fund balance is about $409,000 higher than it was a year ago. West Cooch is a fund that's not active. There's some funds in there, it's just collecting interest in case there's projects out that way. Concon has spent about 21.8% of their budget, and we've not received PILT or their conservation revenue yet this year, so they have not collected anything. Their fund balance is about $2,600 less than last year at this time. KDA, we're about 82.8% of our expenditures. A lot of that is the first and second half, payouts for our contributions from KDA. So that's why it's pretty high there. And then revenues at 1.6% collected for the year. Our IRRB grant comes in the fall, so that's why they kind of run a July to June fiscal year. So we'll bring some stuff to the board upcoming to apply for that grant. So revenue, or the fund balance, is about $27,000 less than a year ago at this time, largely because I think we've done some reserve spend in KDA or more expenses than budget in the last year or two. American Rescue, or ARPA, we still have some funds out there to expend, but yet this year we've spent about $148,000. And we have about $1.7 million left in that fund. I know there's some committed expenses that haven't come in yet this year that we're committed to, like sheriff for some of their squads and outfitting of their squads, as well as a couple of the tandems and outfitting of the tandems that Trent had money committed to. So hopefully in the next couple of months we'll get those in and we'll kind of do a balance of where we're at. We have to commit all ARPA funds by the end of 2024. So we'll hold a committee and figure out where we want to apply the remaining funds. Capital Project Fund is Fund 30. There's a few different projects in this one. First one is the 2024 jail bond. So we received the $15.4 million for the jail there. If you remember when we talked to Northland Securities, we talked about arbitrage and liability to the IRS related to if we earn more interest on our bond proceeds than we pay on our bond payment, there's potential that we have liability to the IRS. So if we spend it, there's a certain threshold. If you spend 10% within the first 6 months, and I don't have all the numbers in my head, but they have a 6, 12, 18, and 24 month spend. And even if you're earning more interest than you're paying, and you meet those spend thresholds, you don't have any liability. So we worked with our person that's managing the arbitrage calculation, and so we're going to spend our 2024 bond proceeds first to avoid arbitrage liability. We've already assumed liability on the 2022 bond because it sat for a year or two without having much spent out of it. So we know we're going to have liability there. So our strategy is to spend the 2024 bond first to avoid any of that liability. So that's that one. Then 2022 bond, jail bond is there as well. Northland Counseling, we talked a little bit about our reporting requirements in the board meeting today, and they have about $24,000 left in their fund for their project. It's not county funds, we're acting as a fiscal agent for their project, and so assume at some point that'll get closed or zeroed out. The one at the very bottom of page 6 there is the Rainy Lake RV sewer project. This was a budgeted project that Matt's doing at the Rainy Lake RV site to extend sewer further into their site. I think we had a grant for that, and the county's contribution is the $50,000. We have not incurred any expenses really in that project yet. I know Matt's working on some engineering pieces to that project right now, so some costs to come in. Debt Service Fund 35 is for our Jackfish sewer project. 2025 will be our 20th year on that. So that'll be almost up. We'll have to reconcile the special assessments and the debt service fees that we've collected to make sure it covers all the debt, but we'll do that probably sometime next year. As you can see, we're carrying a negative fund balance there, so we're not quite collecting enough to cover the payments on that. So we're about 30,000 behind where we were at this time last year. And some of that might just be based on what we receipted when we pay our debt payment on that, but that's where we're at as of 6/30. Debt Service Fund 36 is for the Island View Sewer project. We've kind of got it split into Debt Service 1 and Debt Service 2. If you remember, there were some overages on the project, about $2 million overage. So that's where the Debt Service 2 comes in. The county had previously committed to paying about $500,000 of that debt over 5 years. It was their goal, $100,000 a year. And so 2024 was our first $100,000 dollar contribution towards that additional debt. So we're running a negative fund balance on that. The general fund is covering until we catch up with the collection on those funds. Top of page 8 is our debt service 2022 jail bond fund. This is where we pay our principal and interest up for the 2022 jail bond and then receive the levy funds that the board has levied for to pay those off. So we're running a positive fund balance as of 6/30. And the 2024 principal and interest debt payment isn't in here yet. That'll be come in here for the 2025 budget. We'll have an interest payment due on that in 2025 of about 700 and some thousand. So one of the big discussions we'll need to have as a county is how we're gonna pay for those payments on the second jail bond. So that'll be part of the budget process this year. Land and Forestry Fund 70, they are at about 38% of their expenditures for the year and about 77% of their revenue for the year. Their fund balance is about $125,000 higher than it was a year ago. And then at the very top of page 9 is our trust fund. This is where our tax forfeit timber revenue goes to, and then it gets apportioned out after the year. I do want to make note, due to the warm winter and the wet spring, there was a lot less activity in the woods for logging. So we're about $1 million behind in relation to collecting revenues of people cutting on those properties. So that's something we're going to have to take into consideration for the 2025 budget if we can't catch up. And so I'll be working with Nathan pretty closely on if we're going to see a 30-40% reduction in revenues at some point. I mean, those properties exist and hopefully they can catch up, but if they don't catch up before the end of the year, we're not going to have much to apportion out in 25. So we're going to have to budget accordingly with that. The rest of the page, this is a recap, and it's a little deceiving because of the $15 million jail bond. We'll have to do a budget adjustment with that here in the future to account for that since it wasn't budgeted for. So it's looking like it's inflated by $15 million, so it's really not an accurate depiction of an overall budget. But if you took that $15 million out, you could see where we're at compared to budget. And then the bottom table, the fund balance comparison, just compares our fund balances from year to year. And again, that $15 million's in there, so our fund balance without the $15 million would be about $31 million, I believe, compared to $34.8 million in 2023. So that's the second quarter budget review. Questions, comments, takeaways for me?
I'm good.
If you have questions, you know how to get hold of me, so.
We know where to find you.
Yeah.
On the timber side, the demand is still there, so they will come eventually. Just a question of
They
that.
still having a tough time getting to some of the dots, or?
Well, I'm sure they do, but I mean, the good news is that they will come.
They will get cut, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the demand is there.
Yep.
The yard is pretty empty over there.
But when it rains every other day, didn't get no cold weather, that really throws the kibosh for things.
But the demand is there to fill that up.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not.
They're still, I mean, you're still doing his auctions, they're still selling the timber, but they're not cutting it, so there's no
Income from
payback
the
on
stumpage.
cords that they cut, so. But I see the cemetery board is here, so I apologize, our timing was off on the thing, but we're gonna let you address the board here, and I know I talked to Becky, I know she's not here, but maybe you got new information. I kind of prepped the board a little bit about what I knew, but I'll certainly let you guys come forward.
Okay. We did type up a little letter for you. It just explains what happened at the cemetery and how much it's gonna cost us to do the repairs. Just a real simple letter. There you go.
Did you guys want us to introduce ourselves? or-
Yeah.
Yes, would you please introduce yourselves?
I'm Renee Woodbeck. I work at Family Services, but I'm also on the cemetery board.
Okay.
Julie Ehrman.
Mona Johnson.
Kelly Brinkus, I work at North Coach. And I used to sit where you sit.
Well, you can come back up here, sit up at the table if you guys want
They've
to.
got our empty seat.
Yeah, it's right there. Yeah.
So did we have an updated number? I know originally you guys came in saying between 60 and 65.
Yeah, I don't know where that number came from, but after we did the inventory twice.
Yeah.
And so we've come up with about 40 to 42 headstones that are knocked over.
Has anybody gone out there and seen it? No? It's pretty sad.
It's devastating. It's just a horrendous act by, some people. I don't know who it would be, but yeah, it's.
The saddest one was a woman we talked to, and her baby's headstone had been knocked down, and she was just raw. The grief was still raw with her, and so she spent a long time on the phone with us, talking about her pain she felt, and so we reassured her that we need to find a way and pay for it. And so what we're talking about is if people want to repair them themselves, to give us the bill for them. If not, then we'll have licensed contractors that can do the work, and we'll recommend that out.
Yeah, unfortunately, our insurance company sent us a long letter and they denied our claim. They said that if it was damage done to any of the buildings or the grassy areas, but they looked up the regulations and they said that headstones are considered the people that put them in are the owners, and they're the ones that should repair them. So now, I wish they would have gave us the claim, because as you see, it's almost $12,000 to fix every single stone, put it back in its upright position. I mean,
You got to epoxy the base back in, and not just anybody can go there. I don't know if you've ever tried to move a piece of granite, but it's it's extremely difficult. So we have to have licensed professionals that go in there, put the epoxy in, set them up correctly, and have them there to withstand the elements.
And the bench that we had in there was, we don't know how they did it, but it was in pieces.
Yeah.
And those benches are heavy.
Yeah.
It was literally in pieces. So somebody worked real hard on doing that.
Yeah, there's statues, there's little urns, there's, there's people's, beloved possessions that, that they put out there. We're looking at a large scale amount of work that needs to be done. And as you can see, the pricing is on there, and so, we don't currently have the funds to do this. A lot of people have contacted us, but then a lot of these are from the 1900s. How do you even find people that are still around? But you want to put that back for the sacredness of the, party, to put them back into place where they belong.
And I think the thing to keep in mind too is, we've estimated these costs, and so it could go either way.
Yeah.
Once we contract with the right kind of people to provide the services and the work.
Yeah, it might be less, it might be more. they really hit the old section of the cemetery when you first go in. And that cemetery was started like in the early 1900s. And those gravestones are humongous. And I don't know how they tipped them over, but they tipped they're huge. They tipped them right over. Yeah, so.
We also have cameras up there now. Law enforcement put some cameras up. They haven't found anybody yet, but they did put a couple cameras up there.
They put them up before or after?
After.
Because we were going to put them up before that, because again, funding has always been an issue, because the thing is, people are getting cremated now, and so the full burials aren't happening, and so there's less money coming in all the time as well, so.
Yep.
We do what we can do. If you've been out there, you see how we did a lot of landscaping, trees and rocks and gardens, because we want to make it really pretty for people where we are. We were also talking about a columbarium, if we could have, if we ever get the funds to do that. So we want it to be a peaceful place where people can go, and visit their loved ones. That's our goal.
Is this the first time that this happened at that center?
We actually talked to Leif Larson about that, and he said he does not recall any damage to this extent that's happened in the past. So
There's also partying that goes on. We found beer cans and bottles and things like that.
Yeah,
and in the woods around there.
Yeah, then there's a couple corner lots, and the kids like to go way in the back and have a party back there, and I don't know.
Is there any gates or anything a person could put up for nighttime?
There are gates there, but because they can drive around. If you have a four-wheeler or anything like even if the gates were closed, they're not been closed, you can drive around it. So where there's a will, there's a way. So
They'll find a way. Yeah, they'll find
We definitely got to close them in the wintertime, because you guys don't want to know how many people that pull out of the cemetery in the wintertime when the roads aren't plowed.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
I know you do.
Yeah.
But there's there's no way that, because the four-wheelers, they can get into the cemetery at the back of the cemetery. There's places in St. Thomas where there's pathways for them to come in that way. There's
the VFW.
The VFW section, there's pathways way back there. And then, of course, our main road that goes Memorial Drive, that has a little pathway for four-wheelers or whatever to go way to 332.
Yep.
So it's almost impossible to keep them out. I know I've been out there and I've chased kids on four-wheelers out of there. So now we're gonna put new signage up, hopefully. Kyra Hasbargen is going to make us some signs that say no ATVs allowed or motorized vehicles. So we hope that will help.
Along with the cameras.
We're gonna purchase cameras and put cameras up as well.
So do you have somebody coming in to give you guys an actual estimate or an actual?
Well, we've talked to our local contractors like Mark Trumpeter, and I've talked to Leif, and he's talked to Little Falls Granite. Mark and Little Falls Granite pretty much put all our headstones in for us. So Mark is the one that kind of gave me an outlook of how much it would cost. Like a small headstone, probably $100 to $175, a medium $175 to like $250, and then the larger ones $300 to $500 to put those back. So it's pretty costly.
We've also discussed other fundraising things if we don't, some kind of bingo, something we can do to raise money on our own as well to offset, we can't get funding elsewhere, we're going to have to do some kind of fundraising. Because people are really in pain.
Yeah, they are. I know, I get hundreds of phone calls and people, what are you gonna do? Don't you have cameras up? Can't you gate the cemetery off? And, those are good questions that we will discuss at our next board meeting.
I watch cars up there all night long. I can see them right out of my front room window across the field from my house.
And one of my coworkers can see the four-wheelers heading up towards the cemetery, because she lives a little close to that, and she said, where I live, you can hear them start up at 10 o'clock at night, they run till about 1 in the morning, and then it stops when at 5:30. We're suspecting four-wheelers, but we don't know that for sure. We're
We
suspecting.
kind of saw some trails when we
Yeah.
went out there to look, where they had gone up to a headstone. So you could kind of see that they were, because it took something to push them over. They're
Yeah.
extremely
Not gonna
heavy.
push them over by hand.
Yeah, it appears that they did.
Probably stranded up. Hold them forward.
How much,
That's probably, Adam, what they did, yeah.
what kind of a fund balance do you have for maintenance and all that? You obviously must have a fund balance. I'm surprised really that that's a fairly good sized cemetery, isn't it?
Yeah, but we have lots of expenses, and we've been, we just spent over $10,000 fixing all the roads out there.
Culverts and so forth.
And putting new culverts in, and
Grading the roads.
and stuff like that, so.
We got some grants to do the landscaping.
Yeah.
The Knudsen Foundation got some grants, but it's designated for landscaping only.
Yeah, so yeah.
And
It's
we
not,
do have a
it is not
grounds-
fenced.
We do have a groundskeeper and a
And like,
budget
yeah,
for that.
groundskeeper for mowing and
Yeah.
maintaining the grounds and so forth.
Yeah, we have a digger, and we have a locator, and then we have the groundskeeper. So actually, we have 3 people that are employed there. So a lot of our cash goes to pay these 3 individuals.
And again, the revenue's not coming in like it was. There's
Right.
very few, it's a lot of people, they just have their ashes and they put them in the lake or on their property or whatever. So when you don't get the burial money in, then our resources, we really fought to keep our costs low.
Yeah.
We really have.
Yeah.
We're at bare minimum, so.
Yeah,
And we also are always seeking grant funds from somewhere.
Sounds like an upbringing parenting issue.
Yeah.
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 And we used to get funds from another government entity,
Yeah.
but those funds have depleted a lot.
Yeah.
And that's made a huge difference in our budget as well.
You think you could get Mark and them guys to give you a more definitive number on these if they go out, and has Mark and them guys come out and looked at them at all?
Oh, yeah, Mark's been out there several times, yeah.
So how many of these people don't have families that the headstones are tipped over at?
Well, it's more, where's your list? I didn't bring my list, but,
It's not only that some families we can't locate, but a lot of these people, they don't have the funds to do it.
Yeah.
You know, you know, this was years ago that they put these in, and, you know, times have changed, and
I think we've located about half of them, have we not?
yeah,
At least some.
I've got half of them located out of the 40 some. I personally have talked to the families, or they've reached out on Facebook. We try to put a post on Facebook, at least I try to, every day.
just
And
letting
say,
people
keep
know.
on calling, please, respond to our Facebook page. So I think out of the 40 or so, I've got 20 of them that I've talked to the families. So we need to find another 20. And I've been contacting St. Thomas Parish as well, because they've been helping me like locate some of the families, because they have families the same last name or whatever buried in their cemetery. So I've been reaching out to Emma quite a bit. She's been helping. And I got a couple of other volunteers that are working on the list as well to help us locate the families.
Okay.
I know I talked to Becky about volunteers, some sort of effort to help, maybe lessen the cost. I know maybe she thought professionals needed to do the work, but is that something in this kind of extraordinary circumstance that could be done, and the community could rally around that to help?
If they had the knowledge, like we said, with the epoxy, and when you look at the, you really have to see them to understand. You can't just have anybody do it, because they're not gonna hold.
Yeah.
The tip right back.
That's
Over,
over right back
yeah.
over if they're not done
And-
correctly.
And it is in our bylaws that you have to have a license to work in the cemetery due to insurance purposes. So all our 3 workers do have insurance, and it has to be over $1 million. So if you, for instance, if you went out there and tried to fix one and it fell on your foot and, you know, you broke your foot or something, then who's gonna pay? We, you know, that's, the responsibility falls on you, not on us, because we're not responsible. So we prefer to have a licensed contractor do it, because then they'll do it right, and then we don't have to second guess, and a year later, it falls over again, so we'd like it done correctly.
Bottom line is, we're gonna do it anyway, but any help we could get would be very
Yeah.
appreciated.
Yeah.
So that's
we
the
owe
bottom
it
line.
to
We
the
owe it to the
community.
community.
Yeah.
It's within the city limits, isn't it?
No, no, it's in the county.
Okay.
Yeah. And the city has been very supportive to the cemetery as long as I've been there, which has been like 7 years. And they've given us an allotment every year, and that really helps us a lot. So we're just asking for, you know, some funding to help us in the process of repairing these headstones. And whatever amount you decide is just great, we'll take
supplement
anything,
that.
yeah. Because we need to raise the money.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that maybe a call for donations wouldn't raise that amount of money.
Well, if we're, you know, our plan is what, you know, we're gonna do a fundraiser if we need to. Those donations will,
definitely.
will come in that way. So we plan on doing that regardless, and we think those will come in with it. We're just looking for all sources of help to do this, because again, these costs are as close as we can come, but we don't know with materials and so forth if that's gonna increase it.
Yeah, it's just an unexpected
Yeah.
expense that we had no idea.
We hear about it every once in a while, though. I mean, I've heard of this before in different locations.
Sure.
I'm guessing they'll be back.
That's
Yeah.
not huge.
We're hoping that, you know, they'll come and look at their little
At their
artwork,
work.
I call it, you know.
They'll be under the influence one night partying, and they'll gather up, and that's their lair, right?
Yeah.
That's their trail, that's their area.
Yeah.
They'll be back.
And a lot of enforcement is still out there too. We're hoping the cameras, and if we get more, we'll pick up some.
Yeah,
I wonder if they're live cameras.
I don't
Have to check
know.
with law enforcement.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea.
We don't really want them to know there's cameras
We-
out
yeah,
there.
Yeah.
They make,
Like,
We don't
they
even
make-
wanna know where the cameras are.
We're not told where the
Yeah.
cameras
Yeah,
are.
we've been out there several times and we're like, I don't know where they are.
Yeah, they don't want us to know either.
Yeah.
They make cameras for hunting
Yeah,
that go
right.
right through, that send pictures to your cell phone,
Yeah,
like almost
yeah,
immediately.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
And the service is pretty reasonable.
I think so.
So that would be an option. Just
Absolutely,
put those
going forward,
up in
yeah.
the tree and no one will.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, the director was gonna.
We should maybe wait for a full board to make a decision.
Cabela's or Shoes or
Yeah.
one of those, they
Yeah.
run specials on them.
Yeah.
Looking at a lot of
The ones that
cemeteries
good,
across
the
the
ones
county.
that they can't take with them. You know, just-
Poultry cameras. What I always use them, if they're 12 feet up in the tree, you might be able to crawl up there and get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, wishes of the board.
I think we should wait till we have a full board, and he'll be back next week, so we could have a meeting on that. And if you guys start your process of trying to drum up some money, however, and then when we have full board, we'll maybe make a decision.
And we do thank you for listening.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
thank you. Yeah, we really appreciate it.
It's not, it's unimaginable that people would find that amusing.
It is.
It is.
Well, to me, the number, like, you know, I expected when we got the call, maybe a couple, but to go out there and to see over 40 of them, it's absolutely sickening that somebody would have done that. Think maybe one or two and then get the heck out, you know, but no. They spent an entire, you know, evening just gallivanting around on such sacred.
Friday night's paper had some pictures of some of the damage. If you have a copy of Friday night's paper, you'll see some of the pictures, because there was an article in there.
Most likely, they're gonna go back.
That was,
Yeah, I
and
think
that's
like
how
Thor
we were
said,
talking.
yeah.
Yep.
They'll be back.
No question.
Yeah.
And most likely, they'll be during the daytime, so they can see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because they want to see what damage they've done.
Yep.
Yeah,
If they haven't already.
yeah.
It took time and effort.
Oh,
Yes, it
oh
did.
my God,
There's
that's
a
what
lot
I'm
of,
saying.
a lot of useful strength in that.
And it's like, you know, it's not like a straight line, it's like one
Right.
here and one there, so it makes you wonder if there were multiple machines out there. I don't even know how
Can't
they
be
did
just
it.
one person.
Yeah, because it was all over, yeah. It took some time to do that, definitely.
They had to make noise.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, if you live in that neighborhood, you hear four-wheelers all the
night.
time, so
Yeah.
it probably wasn't unusual to hear them, you know? And that's probably why we didn't get any calls,
Yep.
because that's a daily thing. That's their pathway to wherever they want to go. It just surprises me that they only hit Forest Hill and they never went over to St. Thomas and did any damage
And
at
nothing
St.
else
Thomas.
And
Or the veteran section of our cemetery. That was not done, nobody went over there. So we can be grateful for that.
Wow. All right, well, we will,
Thank you so much.
we will bring this up when we get to full board here, and we'll have a discussion on it.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you
thank
guys
you.
very much for coming
Have a
in.
good day.
Bye.
It'll just be Sean and I, so you know.
You don't have to have a motion on that, do we?
We're not in session.
Okay, perfect. All right, so, Thor, if you want to come to the table.
Please, thank you.
Sean, you're online. There you are.
Look at that.
Hello, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Does everyone here know Sean? I think you've all been introduced, I believe.
Dale, you probably haven't met John.
I might have met him at one meeting out at the airport there, I believe.
Yeah, Sean, SCH engineer, he's our lead engineer. We're very fortunate to have him on board. Very capable gentleman. He's also a veteran. He's a C-17 captain, cargo pilot, Iraq and Afghanistan. He hates it when I say that, but Sean, that's the way it is for your introduction every time. So, and he doesn't. He's a very humble man, so I appreciate him very much. If I may, by the way, that's an upsetting story, man. Gentlemen, here, I'm sorry. Okay, if I may, just starting out, kind of a refresher what the airport where we're at. Is some historical data, reminder to the group of the value of the airport. Once again, there's 133 publicly funded airports as of 24 now. We're one of the 9 scheduled care airports in the state of Minnesota. Smallest airport in the state of Minnesota have such a thing. We're one of 5 airports in the state of Minnesota that has U.S. Customs Immigration. Airport employs 200 employees. MnDOT study reminding the group in the 2019 study from MnDOT Aeronautics that it contributes $28 million a year in local economic impact. Before I get to a follow-up study with that regarding the national park, the other thing is the airport, we're obviously supporting medevac, both fixed-wing helicopters, UPS contract, Bemidji Aviation, Bemidji Airlines, Tuesday through Friday, 4 days a week. Lots of freight on those aircraft every day. A lot of that freight goes to PCA, goes to all the local industries, obviously. Running back to the MnDOT study of 2019, I was processing this the other day, thinking about that $28 million figure and the importance that is to the area. And I remembered back in the gray matter that the National Park Service did a study in 2017, and this article actually came out in 2018. I found it really interesting. The whole national park, that economic impact is $18 million per year for 2017 numbers. So
Granted, very close in time frame to our 2019 study, but that's really, that's really quite, that's significant difference for, for how much money is going to the park versus the airport, et cetera. The economic return is quite substantial. The park, I think, as the 2017 study, directly 273 jobs. The other interesting thing about that $18 million, that isn't just dumped into the local economy just for Koochiching County or National Falls. That obviously is like basically, 2 counties, St. Louis and Koochiching, 4 or 5 small communities, et cetera, et cetera. So clearly, International Falls, Koochiching County, obviously, do the math, 28 million, that's significant, very significant for inside one county, inside a county with a much less lower population than St. Louis County, obviously, and with 2 entities owning the airport. I just thought that was really interesting. That's a significant study. I'll let in a bit, when I get to the funding portion of it, I'll let Sean take over at that point. By the way, Sean, Cara will not make it, so it's you and I today. We'll be fine without her. I'm sorry, she's the brains of the operation. We make it look good. So, let's see, on operations side of things, summer traffic is still good. 90% of our revenue is 90% of revenue is 90 days in the summer. Airline numbers are our numbers, etc. A couple of discussions were at the meeting with the city last week. One of the questions was Sun Country about scheduling that, who provides that, etc. That's a really neat story in itself. Sun Country came to the Duluth, forgive me, to our airport commission years ago, to our airline actually, and said, hey, we'd like to start these Nevada, we call them junkets, all right? And of course what happens is, and Ricky's directly involved in this, is the Sun Country charters, the vast majority of the funding for the Sun Country charters is actually paid for by the casinos in Nevada. So it's a really great deal for the local economy because we have a lot of folks, and Ricky can testify this, a lot of folks ride the aircraft just to go to Nevada, just to get away for a few days, rent a car and drive around and don't spend a dime inside the casino, and the casino is carrying the load. So that's a significant, that also a significant funding structure for us that is, virtually zero is contributed locally to that. One really important question and statement is the EAS funding. Essential air service. So without essential air service, International Falls, we don't have an airline. We don't have a functioning airport. Again, a important reminder about the EAS monies. The vast majority of those monies come from the most interesting source. They come from foreign carriers using our airspace. So as an example, Lufthansa, British Airways, whoever it is, just hypothetically, they're flying from London and they're going to Hawaii, or they're crossing our airspace. Anytime that they cross our airspace, from the second they get into our airspace and our controllers are talking to them, it's all tracked and it's all billed, and a significant amount of money. So again, very little of the EAS funding, EAS monies come out of the local funds. So I just can't emphasize enough. It's a good deal, double quotation marks. It's a facility that produces a tremendous amount of revenue for the local area. With the percentage of input local is frankly quite minor compared to what we're getting out of it. Operations. Let's step into RIF litigation. Let's talk RIF litigation next. Ricky's aware of this. We're still in discussions, actually in mediation with a group of attorneys for our roof issues. We're still continuing to have the roof issues. Predictably, they're getting worse. Last rainstorms, we're having some lighting issues because what I would call the cans per se, some electrical boxes are filling full of water, running down the conduits. That's been addressed. The legal team is aware of that. Still doing that battle, still going along, and hopefully we can get that resolved in the near future. Projects right now, we just received a new mower, Toro zero turning race, not a zero turning race, but a Toro mower, and we replaced our 15-year-old John Deere mower, finishing mower, 72-inch front deck, what have you. And we got a 60-inch brush broom for that for winter operations for the sidewalks. We're in the process, or we're still going through the process of our new loader. Again, that's a 20-year-old loader, replacing that with a new JD loader, working with Sean, and Sean's going to share all the details about the Made in America complexities of that. At that point in time, if you have any questions for me, please do, and if not, I'll hand it off to Sean. Sean, if I'm sorry, any questions?
I'll just make
Please.
mention on that loader that the board, we recommended that you keep the old one.
Correct.
Because of all the new DEF systems and electronics on the new one, to make sure we're not out a loader at the airport if we have a problem with that brand new one, until we make sure that one is up and running properly.
Absolutely. Good idea, yeah. Because in the wintertime, it's utilized every day.
Every day.
Every day, it's rocking, for sure, definitely.
So we need to make sure we keep the old one, get rid of it.
It's been taken care of, I say with a great sense of pride. It's
Yes,
in
it
perfect
is.
condition.
Very nice
We
shape.
take care of our equipment, we don't take it for granted, I promise. Yeah. Any questions?
Nope.
Sean, please.
Good morning, everyone. Just a very quick update. I know some of you have attended the Airport Commission meetings and have heard some of this information before. The airport is very well supported by the state of Minnesota as well as the FAA. I want to touch on just to give some sense of what the funding support is for the International Falls Airport from both of those entities and what the outlook looks moving forward. Historically, the state of Minnesota, through bonding bills and the aeronautics program, has supported the projects at the airport, I would say substantially. The terminal renovation, as well as the runway reconstruction. There are three separate bonding bills that supported the local share for those infrastructure improvements, those major infrastructure improvements. The state of Minnesota typically provides a percentage match for all of your projects year over year. And the FAA historically on eligible projects funds approximately 95% of the eligible portions of projects. So pretty unprecedented funding for public organizations to help you manage your airport. The COVID bills, obviously the county has experienced those funds to help with county operations. The airport also has received similar programs that's helped with maintenance and operations over the last 4 years, 3 or 4 years, really keeping the operational costs down at the airport. Looking forward, the FAA is, I think the good news to share is that the FAA has approved, I guess it would be the legislature, the Congress has approved a new program for FAA funding for the next 4 years. What this means for International Falls is that it kind of guarantees that federal funding for future projects, which is really exciting. It also increases the amount, I think, to 97.5%. And for projects that will be under grant next year, it helps with the additional local share components of those. It provides certainty to the program, and I think is a really good thing for airports across the country. Next year's projects is a substantial pavement rehabilitation project. The Crosswind Runway 422 is being supported by the remaining bond funds from the program that was developed during the pandemic. So the rehab will be 100% funded by the state of Minnesota. And then also there's an apron reconstruction portion of the project that's kind of a blended fund between FAA, the state of Minnesota, and then the Aeronautics Fund to get that project completed. I know this came up, we met with the city, I believe it was last week, and they were wondering what kind of revenue is generated at the airport. And there is substantial revenue that's generated. I think when you look at commercial service operations, each ticket sold gives the Airport Commission $4.50, and that adds up to funding that's able to be used on airport projects. Fuel sales have a fuel flowage fee. There's ground leases and different opportunities for the airport to make money to help streamline their operation. I'll pause there. It's kind of a lot of information. I think the Airport Commission kind of touches on each one of these in their monthly meetings. Over the next 2 months, we're going to be developing next year's projects through the Capital Improvement Program and presenting the CIP at the local level, and then moving forward to the FAA and presenting that towards the October timeframe. This ties in with Kyra's budgeting and different planning for next year. I'll pause. Any questions?
Sean, maybe you shared, and I didn't catch it. Is the new funding proposal, and I believe it passed, is at 1.25% now? Is that correct?
It is. Yep. The local share then is reduced in half. So it used to be 2.5. I'll maybe simplify it a little bit. So 95. It used to be 95% funded FAA, 2.5% funded by MnDOT, and 2.5% by the Airport Commission, which is then further broken down between the city and the county. The new program is 97.5%, and then the remaining 2.5% is split between MnDOT and the Airport Commission.
Yeah, phenomenal funding source generated by the end user, generated by the use of the airport, fuel tax, aviation tax, what have you.
Perfect.
Any other questions I can answer?
The fuel farm, that's all done?
It is done. In fact, today, Sean, we're doing some final. We're doing it today. We're doing some final inspection on the final punch list. That's correct. Sean?
Maybe one thing I forgot to mention was the impact of the infrastructure bill. So on top of the FAA funding that I previously described, the 5-year infrastructure program also gives the Airport Commission approximately $1 million a year to spend on eligible projects. The loader that Thor has previously mentioned, as well as an aircraft de-icing truck, both critical for safety operations at the airport, were funded with this infrastructure funds. And also another project was the TSA screening. They got a new screening machine to help scan bags at the airport. That was funded by Department of Homeland Security, but the modifications to install it was funded through the infrastructure bills. So some great improvements for the terminal, especially for safety and security of inspecting baggage, but also the streamlining the operations. Those charter flights that Thor mentioned, it gets a little busy there if each bag has to be hand-checked. So this will streamline that operation.
Sean, thank you for reminding. I forgot about the de-icing truck. Important part of the component. Also, our runway de-icing truck. I forgot that also. Please share with that. And then also, Ricky had a question about the fuel farm. I believe our final punch list is today.
I might have missed the question there, but we did get also as part of the FAA funding a runway de-icing vehicle. So it basically has spray arms and puts a de-icing fluid onto the runway to help with icing events. There's been a few instances over the previous years where if you get an inch or so of ice on the runway, it's going to be a while before it opens up. The aircraft operators need a certain level of friction to operate safely. This machine that will hopefully eliminate any of the downtime that the airport sees on those icing events, which are becoming more and more common. And then the fuel system, Thor, what specifically did you want me to
Yeah, Ricky was asking where we're at on that. I think today is our final punch list with Austin from Minnesota Petroleum.
Perfect.
If that finishes up.
There we go.
Yep.
Yeah. Sean, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. I guess I missed the question. I'm sorry.
No, Ricky was asking about the fuel farm, and I was just sharing that today's a final punch list for the fuel farm with Austin from Minnesota Petroleum.
Yep. And then once that's wrapped up, again, I think it's operational now. The old tanks are going to be removed as part of the apron reconstruction project, funded through this year's FAA and MnDOT grants. Hopefully we'll get that apron kind of cleaned up from those obstructions that affect taxiing aircraft through the area there.
Perfect.
Any questions?
Am I thinking correctly when you said the funding 2.5% dropped to 1.25? local share, then is that 1.25 split between the city and the county?
No, I think that's 1.25 for each of us. It used to be 2.5.
Right.
Now it's going to drop to 1.25.
That's correct.
So it cuts it in half again, basically. So
Right.
Right.
That's what
For our locals.
We went from 2.5 to
Right.
1 1/4.
Right.
So is this a cure to the city wanting out of the funding of the airport?
It's
No?
a great question.
I can't
This
answer
is-
that
That's
question.
just for projects.
That's just for
But I
projects.
hear what the
So,
gentleman's asking.
I know, but operational costs are still
This is just projects.
just projects.
Just projects.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Every little bit helps, I would think.
Correct.
Yes.
It's a really good question.
Yeah. I can't answer for what the city's ideas and thoughts
Well,
are on that,
you
but
know, because I'm outside of it. I mean, the airport is kind of your deal,
Sure.
right?
yep.
I don't fly. I wasn't born with it. But,
It's an interesting statement also. I like that. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
you know, I do hear the back and forth is
Sure.
one of the very first things that I heard. So, you know,
Mhm.
whatnot, so it's
Well-
still there simmering.
Like I say, the airport's a very much needed thing. I was there on Saturday, Sunday, and the amount of people. There's 65 people per plane going through that airport, and they are in and out 2 shifts, and the planes are almost full on every one. There are a ton of people, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Camp Cooch. There's people flying through here steady, people going fishing. It's just, a person needs to go up there on a Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday and just pay attention to how many private planes, how many medical planes, how many big planes come in that place. It is unbelievable for the amount of people that land at Little International Falls Airport.
Yeah, oh, I absolutely believe it's a critical part of the picture.
And it's-
Are volumes back to pre-COVID levels?
Kara, are you on?
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah. Adam has a question about the employments. If you have them handy, could you share those, please?
I sure can.
Thank you.
Total employments for the month of June was 2,276 that flew out. That was an increase of 510 for the month over last June. For the year so far, we are up. We're up almost 900 employments over last year, so we're at 6,335 employments as of June 30th.
So are we still up over COVID, before COVID? Is our employment's up?
Let me look here.
You got that in front of you?
Yeah, sorry.
I don't think we're quite to our pre-COVID numbers, but we are gaining significantly each year. Just in 22 over 21, we were up 48%. I don't have that percentage of total employments from the FAA quite yet. Usually they put those numbers out in October. But again, for 2023, we were up significantly over 2022's numbers.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Kara.
You're welcome.
When do we anticipate getting your budget for 25?
Kara?
Sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing.
I'm sorry. Adam Coe's asking, when do we think we'll be getting our budget for 25?
I will be starting to work on that. Sean has helped me with the project capital piece of it. I foresee our operational budget staying fairly consistent as last year, other than utility cost increases, obviously. But other than that, I think we'll be probably around the same number. So I'll start putting that together here in the next week or two, and I'll have it ready in August.
Thank you, Kara.
Perfect.
Please.
How about the roof?
Yeah, right there, same thing, right in the middle of the litigation. It's getting worse as anticipated was going to happen. So yeah, we're still working with the attorneys and battling back and forth, and still a lot of finger pointing. And and it's frustrating, to be truthful. It's very frustrating. Yeah, and we're definitely putting the heat on. We're definitely, we've obviously taken legal action, and thankfully that movement came in time. We didn't let anything, we didn't go past the statute of limitations on a project, what have you. So we got that under the umbrella. So we're still, they can't go back and say it's too late to file. Numerous issues in insurance. If I may also, on an operations side, every year, among all the requirements of operating the airport, we have all these entities. We have FAA, Midnight Aeronautics, TSA, MPCA, Army Corps of Engineers, and we have a relationship with all of them. And one thing we're required to do by the FAA is every year we have a disaster tabletop exercise. We get to go with all the disaster teams. So city enforcement, county law enforcement, hospital folks, TSA folks, airline folks, my staff, obviously all the EMT folks, the fire folks, what have you. Every year we have a tabletop discussion, planning, anticipating in case we have a large emergency. This year is our triennial year, which means we have to have a live fire exercise, a live event, mannequins / real people, what have you, on site practicing, etc. So if you hear noise, i.e. sirens on August 15th at 6 p.m., don't be concerned. That's just us with our triennial disaster exercise. So working with the folks on the county side, law enforcement, working with Manas on the city side on the fire / EMT. A lot of planning goes into a lot of detail. And then there's a lot of follow-up with that, a lot of paperwork and a lot of documentation and what have you. So every 3 years is required. Someone's going grocery.
Margaret, you're live.
Hey, Margaret.
Hey, Margaret.
Unverified.
I can mute her from the, mute her in the room. If I may, I have a couple of questions. Just, we've talked about some of these things, but as part of the city's annexation request,
yes,
we found out that one parcel of property is the Saddle Club is on airport property. I know we've referred it to our planning and zoning attorney to talk about how to rectify that. But,
yes.
Can you confirm, or maybe Sean can confirm, that we need that as part of our space, right?
Absolutely. But
we don't have an issue with them with their building on our property from a zoning perspective?
If I may, Sean, I'll go first. That's on the itinerary for tomorrow morning's airport commission meeting, which I don't have with me, but I've talked to, I call her Thompson, she's Lacey, right? There you go, yeah. And she'll be at the meeting tomorrow morning to discuss that exact issue. You're exactly correct. There's two issues there. There's the ownership issue and the building issue, what have you. And Sean and I have had some discussions about it. Please, Sean, share with what we've talked about regarding the horse arena and the building, what have you, this runway safety protection, the zone.
So the airport property is administered by the FAA. So maybe that's maybe the most simplest way to put it. If, the FAA views property on what the airport has as the airport layout plan, it is subject to FAA review. I know we're waiting on the discussion tomorrow to learn a little bit more about it, but there would need to be an FAA concurrence if it is airport property shown on the airport layout plan and funded by FAA funding historically, and that could be 50 years ago or whenever. So there is a process to evaluate that, and then if there is an opportunity to release that land from aeronautical needs, from the FAA's control over that property, there's a process to complete that as well. You have to show that there's no aeronautical need for that in the future through any sort of development. So that's the process for the specific land issue. And then as our zoning question, There shouldn't be any issue with the zoning on it. Again, it would have to be evaluated specifically for the proposed improvement, as well as any airspace analysis that would be done when they build a new structure within a certain distance of the airport. You have to evaluate that through an FAA process. So a little bit more to learn, I think, once the proposed improvements are clarified.
And if I may, it is my understanding that the sale of that property, 78, 79, gray hair,
That's
was
what
in
the
the
deed
rusty,
said, yeah.
you didn't, okay. I think, choosing my words carefully, I'm not sure when the person sold the land that he actually owned that land. There might be it's fascinating that we're learning this now, okay, through.
When the airport bought it, or when the Saddle Club bought it?
When the Saddle Club bought it.
Yeah, in 96.
Okay. And the airport bought it originally in 79, correct?
I believe that's what I remember.
I think that's pretty close. So now we're into the 96 time frame, and I don't know. It'll be an interesting discovery. Let's go with that.
Well, I wanted some insight from the airport on this, as well as our attorney that's reviewing it through Matt
Sure.
a little bit. But we've got a certified survey done, and they provided that, and we're just going to get a legal opinion on. But I wanted to make sure that we understand how to move forward.
The two issues, correct.
Because
Yes.
if it can survive as is,
Absolutely.
I still think we need some sort of understanding with the people that have the building on the property.
Right.
And if it can't, then we need a path forward
Right.
on what to do and how to resolve this. But
Right.
I think either way it needs to be resolved.
And from an airport operations standpoint, I just want to be very clear. We support the Saddle Club 100%. We'll do anything to help them, obviously. Sean and I had a discussion about the safety zone as far as the zoning. I don't believe, and we'll dig down deeper to get an absolute black and white answer, but Sean, if I'm incorrect, please correct me, but we believe that from the actual zoning, from the safety perspective, from an FAA's perspective, there is not an issue there. As far as, we call it densities, right? We call it people densities, size of the building, how many people in the building, et cetera, right? So, I'm confident we're good with that. So that's important, obviously.
Okay.
But yeah.
And normally they're only there on the weekends.
Yes.
Normally on a Sunday, I believe it is, to top it off.
Right.
I had one follow-up question just on
Please, of
one of
course.
your comments. Did I hear you right that 90% of the revenue happens in the 90 days of the summer?
Yeah, for operation, overly simplified, 90% of the revenue generated for our operations, for Anderson's operations, 90% of our revenue is 90 days. It's a 3-month window, and
So
that's it.
That just seems like a lot for
It is.
a whole year, but I
Yeah.
get it from where we live, but I didn't know if there's any strategies to
Correct.
increase business in the other months.
And now the airline is basically on that same track, not nearly as aggressive. It's more about it's a flatter curve, right? We're like this, the airline, but there's a big bump in that, and guaranteed in that 90 days. That's where the passengers are. Pretty simple brain. Look at the parking lot, right? You see the numbers in summertime, full, right? Wintertime empty, etc. So, but yeah, it's that's where it's at. We're a seasonal, very seasonal operation. The outfitters, what have you, people fishing, as Ricky's saying, that's where it's at. And so,
But wintertime is busy too.
It is definitely
because
busy.
we have all the cold weather testing people, you have all the winter fishing people, you have
no question.
So
and it's getting busier.
Is
No
there more flights in the summer?
No.
They're just fuller flights.
Identical schedules, correct.
Okay.
Yep. And of course, what happens with those numbers is, and I'm not complaining, but for us, for a private business, for us, you got to get a little creative in your financial planning, because obviously, you're making hay for 3 months, and then kind of like a logger maybe.
Exactly.
Exactly. So yeah. So
go like you're nuts.
Yeah. Exactly.
3
So
4 months.
right. So.
Well, you are
Well,
nuts.
thank you, Adam, very much.
Yeah, like I say though, in the wintertime though,
Oh, there's no question.
It is
No
picking
question.
up. We're getting more and more and more, and we've talked with Paul Nevenin on this situation, and like he said, he goes, they've got to the point now where they have to turn people away because they don't have room for them here.
Yeah, winter cola testing is a big big deal, no question.
So,
And also to add to that, what else has happened is the Fort Francis Airport has lost airline service. And so a lot of those folks are using us more and more. We've always had a high percentage of Canadians, don't get me wrong, but more people are using it.
from further away.
Correct. Yeah, they're driving to this location. Yeah.
They haven't got a solution for their, yet?
No, one of the great things about the United States is that they did the airport design originally and how to fund them. Okay, in Canada, vast majority of they don't have the funds that we have. They didn't design a system where we're taking on a federal level or on a state level, we're taking X amount of cents per gallon. We're making funds to support the airline, the aviation system in the United States. So all these funding mechanisms, all self-funding in the United States, provide communities like us phenomenal leverage for projects, and Canada hasn't done that. All those small communities, they don't have leverage to the funds, to the federal funds, and so their money's all coming out of the local, and they can't afford to have the airport with the local supporting totally local. Yeah, it's phenomenal, isn't it? It's crazy.
They got bush pilots and we got passenger pilots.
You're dead on, exactly a fact. It's it's an interesting situation for them. The other, if I may run back, I forgot, I should have had it in my notes. One interesting thing, and Ricky sees a lot of this also, Nexus interviews, frequent flyer interviews at the airport being conducted by U.S. Customs at the same time as a Canadian Customs representative using our airport, using the U.S. Customs office at the airport for doing Nexus / passport interview, not passports, but frequent flyer interviews there, part of the system. And that's literally every day, all day. Folks are there's always people waiting in line in the hallway, waiting for the interviews for the Nexus programs.
Yeah,
it's
that
phenomenal.
one day, I was there one day and I talked to the people that were outside the door at one of our meetings, and they had flown in from New York.
You bet.
To International Falls to go through our screening for their Nexus card, because they were 3-4 months booked out everywhere else, and she goes, we called International Falls and they said, you show up, we'll take you.
Really?
Yeah, we have, may build on that, it's a good point. Literally New York, Florida, California, British Columbia, Toronto, Ontario, literally Ottawa, honestly, they drive here, or fly here. They'll fly up on a flight and try to get out of the next flight. They'll try to do a loop in one day. Or they'll come in, stay overnight, rent a car, etc., and then travel back, fly back.
Yeah, we have a very busy port going through there with the amount of people that go in there to get their cards and their passports. It's just unbelievable.
I know this group knows this, but it's a really good thing we got going there.
Yeah.
It's something you don't want to lose.
It's a phenomenal asset. And so,
No, because we got people coming in, they're landing at our airport, they're spending money at our airport, and they're leaving our airport. So, I mean, anything we can keep here, we need to keep here. I'm 100% with that. That is...
So the cold weather testing, is that because he doesn't have room, or doesn't have the desire to expand, or doesn't have the room? Or what?
I don't think we have the room to expand right now. I think at the airport, I think the airport's full. The only thing we could do is maybe try to add on to the going south out of the airport. If we maybe look at vacating
What if we bought a closed school?
108, County Road 108 from like the balloon site down, where we could actually add more hangars and more stuff off on the southeast side of the airport down there. That'd be about the limitations that we're going to have, I believe, from looking at the layout of the airport, looking at their prints and stuff, the way the buildings would have to go.
Yeah, this is off the subject, because is CADA actively looking or exploring options?
For expansion.
My co-weather testers right now, I'm building them a brand new facility in the business park. And I get, on a yearly basis, I get probably 270 to 350 people that go through my place for Hyundai and Kia in the matter of 2 months. And I have on an average anywhere from 100 to 150 cars that go through my place in them 2 months with people. And every single one of them fly here.
But is that connected to CADA or the
No,
weather testing?
no,
That's
them
yours.
guys, no.
That's yours.
Just mine.
Yeah.
And like they say, they try to fit in whoever they can in the time slots, but their time slots are all full.
Right.
They don't have any open spots in our 2.5 month window that we got. Now we got people starting to drag up here in December, because lots of time December is getting cold enough where we can start testing. So we got December, January, February. Come in March, it's starting to warm back up. If you don't have a cold box, it's getting tougher.
Cold weather's going away.
Yeah. So, but it is a very lucrative to have in this community, because every one of them people get their own motel room. I mean, and they don't just stay at the American Inn, the Cobblestone. They go to Thunderbird Lodge. They go all over and stay. And they absolutely love it up here. They said this is one of the best communities they could ever come to, is International Falls. They come back year after year, and the people, they go back to the thing there and they call them by name when they walk through the door. So and that says something about International Falls.
Yeah.
So, well,
Any other questions, gentlemen?
any other questions for Thor or Sean or Tyra? Well,
Thank you, everyone.
thank you very much for
Thank you.
coming in.
Thank
And
you very much.
Nice update.
You bet. Thanks. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Let me present.
you guys have
Thank
a
you.
great
Take
day.
care, everybody.